When I talk about representation, I mean it every single fucking time I speak on it. 1 year, this kid right here that you supported for these last 12, 13 years, 1 year, 5 main event pay-per-views for Swerve Strickland. I don't just speak about representation, I go out there and prove the fucking thing. And I only make it this far because of you people right here chanting, whose house? Every single city, every single arena, every stadium, whether it's the United States or if it's in London. In front of 50,000, 80,000, I don't care if it's 200. I always want to hear y'all chant, whose house? Whose house? Whose house? Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for the merchandise. Get home safely. And one last thing, just for my amusement, fuck Booker T.
Salute, wrestling friends. Welcome to the Goodbread Wrestling Channel, also known as Figure 4 TV. Man, Swerve Strickland, you just played yourself, dummy. And it's the problem with us minorities in this business right here, in these big business and corporations. This is the biggest problem that we face, B. We do it to each other. And Swerve, man, Swerve, you're a coward for that. The thing that makes this disturbing, Swerve, is you ran into Booker T. Booker T ran into you face to face. And as a man, he spoke with you and he chopped it up. So if you had any ill feelings, anything of that nature, you should have said it straight to Booker T face.
Like I said, I was at an event this weekend. I was at an event this weekend in Richmond, Virginia, and lo and behold, who was at the same event with me, actually as a part of the same party, and it was literally the first person I run into the morning of the event. And just like Swerve Strickland said, you know, me having the energy when Vince McMahon said the N-word, I rest assured I had the energy when I saw him because I approached Swerve Strickland and I had a conversation with Swerve Strickland. Let's talk about the conversation in depth as far as what I told Swerve Strickland. I had an offer to be on Vlad TV before as well. And I turned it down. And they called me back and they offered me money to go on Vlad TV. And I turned it down because I was not going to go on Vlad TV and be exploited. I wasn't going to go on, on Vlad TV and him make me look like a fool in front of the world. I was not going to do that. And I wasn't going to go on Vlad TV and say anything negative towards any black man that's ever been in this business because I know how hard it is for all of them. I've been the first one to say any brother getting his bag, I'm all in 100%. But I told Swerve Strickland to his face how disappointed I am in him as a young brother because all I did for Swerve Strickland ever was put him over and put him on a pedestal as being one of the best out there that ever did it. He deserved being the AEW champion. And for him to say something like that about me, I don't know if these guys think racism stopped in 1990 when I got in the business, but it didn't. Okay, you may not hear about a lot of racial issues with Booker T because I handled racial issues head first. I opened doors. I broke down barriers for people like Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland perhaps would not even be here if it wasn't for me. I have to apologize for nothing that I've done in this business because I've gone out there and literally represented in the ring, out of the ring, from day one, all the way to this day in 2025. Okay, you speak on Vince McMahon and him saying the N-word. You want me to be angry black man in the company. You want me to not open doors and make, spaces for people like you. That's what you want me to do. Swerve Strickland, I hope you're never going to be in the movies. I hope you're never going to be on a movie set. Because you might hear somebody say the N-word. And if you got a problem with it, they're going to tell your ass to get the hell out of here because this is a movie, all right? And I'm upset. I'm upset because, more importantly, I'm disappointed at Swerve Strickland because what I told him and I'll repeat it, just like I repeated it to him. You got played. You got played, bro. You got played. You let that man play you and pit you against me and me against you. I don't know how many stories you ever heard about that on Vlad TV, but it's many of them. It's many stories out there about the black man against the black man because Vlad is pitting them against each other. I don't know how many people you heard that's got locked up from the federal perspective about going on Vlad TV. I don't know what the hell you doing on Vlad TV, first of all. What have you done to be on Vlad TV, okay? That's just my opinion on that. And as far as Swerve Strickland, just like I say, and me having the energy, the veracity, I got all that because I'm still 6'3" tall, 230 pounds of romping, stomping, grave, damn, digging, destruction, Jack. And we got to take a break. We'll be back in a minute.
Let this be an example of how these millennial men are being raised. These sassy males, these young ones, the younger generation of men is down bad. And this goes to show his ego and his pride won't even allow him to apologize because he's wrong. So instead of just apologizing or leaving it alone, he got to go and reignite the situation because his ego won't let him deal with the fact that you're wrong. You absolutely wrong. And Booker T was right. You let Vlad TV play you, sir, on some hood shit, on some G shit, yo, on some G joint. You know what I mean? This is a wrestling channel, and I try to be as professional as possible. But on some hood shit, you is a pookie from now on, Swerve. You lost all my respect. And I liked Swerve. But now that I know now I know a little bit about your mindset, and now I know about your personality, your real life personality, you're a loser. That is not manly right there. This man addressed the issue he had with you, face to face with you, and I bet you ain't say nothing. And this is the society we live in, guys. Understand, people and this internet. This is the internet era that allow people to go online and talk crazy out their mouth thinking that they're not going to run into that person in real life. And see, Booker T surprised you, Swerve, because he popped out on you in real life. And you didn't have that same energy, Swerve. You didn't have that same energy. You looked as sassy last night when you were saying it. When Booker T name left your mouth and you spent off, dropped the mic, and walked out of the ring, you were sassy.
Strickland just abused Booker T in front of the crowd after the AEW Dynasty show ended.
In front of 50,000, 80,000, I don't care if it's 200. I always want to hear y'all chant, whose house? Swerve house! Whose house? Swerve house! Whose house? Swerve house! Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for the merchandise. Get home safely. And one last thing, just a reminder, just fuck Booker T.
I will never look at you, Swerve Strickland, again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I can't. And this be the problem. We do it to each other. Black people don't stick together. But we be the first one talking about we need to stick together. And we don't stick together, guys. And when it comes to the racism in wrestling, it's like racism all over the world. It's not just a wrestling business, guys. Understand, we as the minority are at a way lesser percent than the majority, right? So when we don't own these things, like you see, wrestling is a white-owned sport, right? It's a white-owned property. It's a white-owned company, right? So being that it's owned by them, we don't get to tell them how to run their company, right? Understand, we are only 13% of the population. The other percent of the population like what they like, and they consume what they want to consume. So when you be a part of these companies that are not owned by black people, right, you got to play by their rules. And it's unfortunate that the world, the majority of people in the world like what they like, right? And guys, how many of the black wrestling fans, first of all, how many black wrestling fans to white wrestling fans do you think we have? And is it fair to subject the white wrestling fans that don't like what the little bit of black wrestling fans like, is it fair to them to just give the black wrestling fans, the minority, the little minority, give the white wrestling fans what the black wrestling fans like? Just don't listen to what, even though they're the majority, they're the ones buying the tickets, they're the ones keeping the lights on for this company, but y'all be wanting these companies to cater to the minority of individuals. And we're not just talking about black guys. This is why the Asians, the Latinos, they get done the same way in these corporations, because the audience, the vast majority of the audience is not familiar with them. They're going to go with what their majority of the audience is familiar with. And that happens to be a white program, guys. Simple. Like, you could call it racism. You could call it prejudice. I'm going to call it good business. All right? So if the blacks and the Latinos and the Asians, they want more of a role in these companies, then they need to start rallying up the troops, getting the people to start supporting the company. Because here's the thing. If more black fans started screaming and supporting and buying and selling out the shows, they will cater to that. They will cater to that. You will have a card full of black entertainers. You know why? Because that's what the majority of the people spending their money want to see. All right, guys? Now, for more context of what I just said, because I know a lot of y'all gonna miss the message, I got one of the realest black wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots to explain it a little better to you guys. Stevie Ray, y'all know him as Booker T brother.
They putting it like, I'm mad about something.
Right.
I was passionate about something. I'm just telling you, if you're interviewing me and you want the truth, I'm going to give it to you. Point blank, period.
Otherwise, what the fuck is the point of the interview?
Exactly. You want to talk about race? Race is a very difficult thing to talk about, especially when you don't know what you're talking about. And if I'm talking about a depiction, when I brought up Crime Time, I never said the depiction was racist. I said the depiction makes people look at us in a certain way. You said it was racist. Mm-hmm. A lot of people might like it. I just said I had a problem with it. Not just that, but other shows on television too. You notice they didn't bring up the other stuff I said about the other shows that show us, like the Maury Povich show. Mm-hmm. Okay, if we make up 12 to 13%, 13.7% of the United States of America, okay, between 38 and 44 million people, okay? 325 million people in the United States of America right now. Okay, that's a decent percentage. Well, why is the Maury Povich show 95% black? You telling me the almost 200 million white people in this country won't go on your show? Or do you just want to depict it that way? You tell me. He's not the father? You lied about this. You lied about that. You lied about this. Mm-hmm. Really? I know it's entertainment, and I know Maury trying to make his money. That's cool. But you're making it off our backs.
But that's the same. I mean, in many respects, it's the same example of what we're listening to here. When you did this interview, independent of these two guys, your interview was, I don't know how long, but let's say it was at least a half an hour.
No, it was actually a little over an hour.
A little over an hour, okay. They took not even 5 minutes of that interview. They condensed it down. They took out significant portions of the interview explaining what you're explaining right now on this program. And then they used that to frame a narrative.
Right.
In the same way that you see on daytime talk shows.
Yeah.
And the same way that you see in the media.
Right.
The same exact examples.
Right. And so when I use the analogy, pro wrestling is just like the United States. Who's being used? Period. Who's being used? Oh, I forget. The Italians. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Columbus himself.
He's absolutely right, guys. And it will always be about supply and demand when it comes to this culture and this corporation. It's about supply and demand, guys. It's the same thing with the black community, right? People say that, oh, they put this stuff, they put liquor stores in the black communities and ain't no bookstores in the black community because they're being racist. They put in the community what the community gonna buy. They put a bookstore in the black community, ain't nobody buying books in the black community, so that bookstore gonna fold. They put a liquor store in that black community, everybody buying liquor, so it's not that they trying to trick you and force you to buy liquor. They putting what's gonna sell in your company, in your neighborhood. This is why you only got a Chinese food store, you got a liquor store, you got a deli store, you got all of these things that sell because they know this is what the hood like. Now, if they put a bookstore in the hood and the hood started buying books, all of these hoods have a magical bookstore put there. Why? Because it's big business, it's good business, guys. That's all I'm saying. And that's all it's about. You know what I mean? And yes, representation is important. Because like Booker T, Stevie Ray, in this example, he was talking about the comments he made on Crime Time when he was saying how Crime Time was very, very, very racist. It was a racist character because you're going to have some black folks, them little hoodlums, them little ratchet ones that like the Crime Time character because they can relate to it because that's them. While you have other black folks who know that, at some point in our life, we were Crime Time. But we changed and we grew, and with growth, that Crime Time behavior is not acceptable. But if that's what they displaying because they have an audience that love it, then that's what it is. And it's not necessarily racism, guys. Now, the thing that make this interesting and why Swerve, you looking real stupid, because Booker T not even your competition. Booker T is not even in your locker room. He not even in your company. So the fact that you gotta feel like you gotta come at Booker T, you jealous. And that's sad. You supposed to mimic. You could learn a lot from mimicking Booker T. Not trying to go the opposite direction. Booker T is one of the realest black athletes to do it. And it's unfortunate that we gotta mention black. But we got to mention it because we don't have a majority. It's not the majority. We are not the majority to where it could just go unannounced. No, as long as we the minority, then we got to put the black athlete on it. We got to. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But they're not even in the same league. And normally, two black wrestlers don't get along when they're in the same company because, like I said, it's certain slots, it's certain spots. You know what I mean, that the company give for the black athletes. You know what I mean? So you'll be in a company and they only have about four slots for the black athlete. And now you're going to have the 5 black athletes fighting one another. They go that divide that's caused, the divide and conquer for that position. Tony Atlas broke it down best. Did y'all know that Tony Atlas and The Rock's father, Rocky Johnson, did y'all know they was tag team champions and they only really worked 3 matches together as a tag team? They was tag team champions for 8 months, but black on black crime had them not even getting along to where they only had 3 matches together, guys. 3 tag team matches. One was an official tag team match, and that was the match that they lost the titles. And then the other 2 was tag teams with Andre the Giant and other stuff. But that only goes to show you that it's been like this in pro wrestling for years. This Swerve and Booker T situation, it ain't nothing new. We continue to do it to each other, bro.
You got to break it down.
There's nothing good about it.
There's nothing good about it. It was a negative time.
For minorities.
Well, I'll ask you this point blank.
Yeah.
Do you think you faced racism in WWF?
I wouldn't call it racism. I would call it the majority of the fans were Caucasian, and they much rather cheer for somebody that was more like them than not like them. Now, Vince Sr. had a different perspective. He wanted somebody to represent each race. With Junior, it changed. Like, I can't watch the New Day.
Why don't you like
I can't watch that.
Now, why is that?
I can't watch that.
Well, there's a reason. Why, Tony?
Sickening.
Sickening.
It's sickening.
Why is it sickening?
It's like when you go to the circus and the clowns come out in the car.
You
They
think-
clowns.
well, they are a comedic
they
group.
clown. They clown. The last serious African American black wrestler they had was JYD. That was it.
Really?
And that makes a lot of sense. Vince Sr., he didn't have sponsors. He didn't have the outside corporations all up in his business, so he gave y'all a chance to be a little bit free. Don't get me wrong, Vince Sr. had his old racist gimmicks too, because Junkyard Dog was a runaway slave. Remember that. He had the chain around his neck that he was a runaway slave. Let's not play. But he gave y'all a chance to be more of y'all, more authentic, because he didn't have the sponsorships. Now, when Vince came along and he started taking that outside money, he got to go with what the corporate America world wants. Do you see where that coming at? And the corporate America world don't want no Pookie at the top of their television. So that's why things changed a little bit.
Not Mark Henry, who you managed.
He let a midget beat him.
Well, they also gave him.
But he can't beat Hogswaller.
They gave him the world championship.
Yeah, and then they closed the company after they gave it to him.
Well, no, that was ECW. I'm talking about he held the SmackDown version
Yeah,
of
then
the
they take it
title.
right back away. Yeah.
All right, Tony.
But I mean, you take a 450-pound guy, could push a Greyhound bus, put 500 pounds over his head, but he can't beat a midget. Wonderful.
Well,
You ever see him have Big Show to lay down for a midget? You ever see him make Triple H lay down for a midget? Mark Henry's the only big guy I know that couldn't beat Hogswaller.
so you're trying to say that was a racist thing?
I'm not saying that it's racist, it's just that
Again, he's not saying that it's racist. He's calling out what exactly happened. And what he's saying is the majority of the wrestling audience wanted to see Hornswoggle beat Mark Henry. Now, in real life, that is absurd. But the wrestling audience, the majority, let's go back to majority, supply and demand, remember? If the demand for Hornswoggle to beat Mark Henry is high in a white audience, that's what they're going to go with. That's what you're going to go with. It don't matter that Mark Henry, the world's strongest man. If the audience want to see him lose, that's what they're going to go with. Because the audience is what pays their checks. The crowd. You know what I mean? That's all. That's all we saying. And it's not a black-owned company. You know what I mean? It's not. We don't own it. So we you know what I mean? We either leave or deal.
How about this? Maybe there are times when high-quality black professional wrestlers could have been booked better. Is that a fair statement to make? No.
Wait. Whenever you got any business that pick and choose who they want to be the top guy, and it's not just black wrestlers. There's a lot of good wrestlers and a lot of, especially female wrestlers. Just to be a good female wrestler is not good enough. You have to be drop dead gorgeous.
In most cases,
If you're not drop dead gorgeous, you would never be a female. They don't have female wrestling, but they had divas. See, Moolah, Mae Young, and all them, they was wrestlers. You don't have female wrestlers anymore. You got divas, you know, and they have to dress,
provocatively.
Exactly.
There you go.
Otherwise, they can't make. They have to get silicone in their chest if they don't have natural breasts. If you know, it's more of an entertainment thing. And it's a hard sport to be in when you make no decision on what you do or say.
Yeah. Fair statement.
In my day, if I had to do an interview, they said, Tony, you're going to wrestle Ric Flair? you got 1 minute. That's all the promoter told me. Now they give you a strip to read. Every word that come out of Miz's mouth is written by someone else.
And I think that's a horrible way to execute the promos.
Every move that they do in the ring was written for them. Everything is planned. From the first match to the last match to every word that is said is planned.
Overproduced.
Well, that's how they control everything the wrestlers say and do. In my day, the wrestler had more control.
Absolutely.
But since the 80s, I don't talk too much about it because no wrestler could take credit for anything they did from 1985 up. They're just following a strip.
Well, we're in 1984 right now.
1984, the wrestlers still have a say-so on what they do. That's why Hogan never beat me. I didn't want him to.
MSG, you had that big encounter. I remember that.
I told him if he's going to beat me, he got to do it on his own. Today, they tell you, let Hogan beat you, you lay down or you go home.
Yeah.
That's why what he did, he put all the other organizations out of business so that the wrestler had no place to run. You either do what Vince said or you go home. You eliminate all your competition. That way the wrestler, wrestler have more power over what they did and say because if Vince McMahon didn't treat you right, you go to work for Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne don't treat you right, you go work for Jim Crockett. Crockett don't treat you right, you go work for Bill Watts. Or you go work for the Von Erich. You had other places to go, but when Vince bought out all these territory, you had no place to go. It's kind of like Walmart come in, he take over all the businesses, and so you either work for Walmart or you don't go to work.
Right.
Because there's no more companies to go to. Walmart is the dominant employee of everywhere you go.
All right, well, you kicked off the year, you had the tag team titles. It wasn't the most pleasant experience with you and Rocky. Rocky would strand you at hotels when you had scheduled matches. Take us to April the 17th, 1984, the night they decided to take the belts off you and they put it on Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis.
And I knew nothing about it.
Well, explain. What do you mean you knew nothing about it? They just told you that night?
No, I didn't know we were going to lose.
You went into the match. No, what did you think the finish was?
We didn't have one. They said they'd tell me in the ring.
Why didn't they want to tell you?
Because they knew I wasn't going to do it.
Really?
They knew I wasn't going to do that. I would have pressed slammed both of them and threw them in the third row.
What? You didn't want to drop the belts?
No. But Vince knew me.
Well, Rocky Johnson obviously knew.
But they told Rocky, but they didn't tell me. They used to tell Rocky a lot of stuff they wouldn't tell me. They did the same with SD. They would tell SD something, they wouldn't tell me nothing.
Why would they tell you, Tony? Rocky Johnson said in a recent interview, in that time period, you were difficult to do business with.
Because I was a man.
You were a man, okay.
Vince was not used to men. See, if I didn't like something, I would say something.
This is a wreck. He's moving like an uncaged animal.
No lie, he's wild in there.